On April 14, 2009, 18-year-old Sarah Ludermann was murdered by 19-year-old Rachel Wade in Pinellas Park in Florida. The murder was caused of a love triangle. Wade was convicted of second-degree murder in 2010 and sentenced to 27 years of imprisonment. Sarah Rose Ludermann was born on December 7, 1990, to Charles and Gay Ludermann. She was a student at Pinellas Park High School in Florida. Rachel Marie Wade was born on February 27, 1990, to Barry and Jeanette Wade. She worked at the local Applebee's restaurant. The two girls had one thing in common: their love for Joshua Camacho. Joshua is Wade's ex-boyfriend, and his new relationship with Ludermann. Police have been called 6 times for physical and verbal abuse. Camacho got into a lot of verbal altercation with Ludermann. One time he punched her in the face, but Ludermann did not press charges. Wade was still in love with Camacho. After she learned Ludermann's relationship with Camacho, Wade left insulting voicemails for Ludermann. Their rivalry quickly turned violent. They began to harass one another, and according to Wade, Ludermann would show up to Applebee's where she worked at in order to taunt her. In one incident, Ludermann told police that Wade repeatedly called her cell phones and left threatening voicemails. So in the evening of 2009, authorities sat with Wade alone in her apartment, waiting for Camacho. So, unbeknownst to Wade, Camacho had went to the movies with Ludermann. One day, while Wade was outside walking her dog, she heard a car honk, and she stated that Ludermann yelled at her and said, "Stay away from my man." Wade said that she was scared and that she decided to call Javier LeBoy, an old boyfriend. He told her to come over to his house. She got her purse and went to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a steak knife. At 11 p.m. that night, Wade approached Camacho's house. He and Ludermann was inside playing a video game. Wade sent Camacho stating that, "Now I know why you're not talking to me, because you got her." Camacho replied and said, "That's right, I don't like you no more." He said, "Why don't you go home?" Wade responded, "No, I'll wait for her to go home." So witness later testified and said that they heard Wade threatening Ludermann on speakerphone, saying, "I'm gonna stab you." Ludermann had a friend who told her that they saw Wade at Javier LeBoy's house. So Ludermann arrived at Javier's house and saw Wade. Wade testified that Ludermann slammed her brakes, nearly hitting her. Then, next thing you know, fists started flying and hair pulling, and the girls started fighting each other. Wade said that she was fearful when she stabbed Ludermann's shoulder and chest, and the fatal blow that punctured her heart. However, authorities wasn't buying it. They believed a different scenario. They believed that Ludermann never left her van, and it was Wade who approached her and attacked Ludermann, mortally wounding her. Now mortally wounded, while clutching her chest, her final words was to call Camacho and tell him what happened. Camacho ran to Ludermann's home to tell her father what happened. They drove to the scene immediately after the stabbing occurred. A witness said they saw when Wade threw the knife on the neighbor's house, and she said, "I'm done." Unfortunately, Ludermann died at Northside Hospital as a result of a heart puncture and was pronounced dead at 2:20 a.m. the next morning.
Sometimes three is more than a crowd. It can be a recipe for disaster, especially when it is two teenage girls locked in a vicious tug of war over one boy.
It started as something that's not unfamiliar these days, a teenage rivalry that escalated from girlfriend gossip to internet insults and finally to a street-side showdown. But as it grew, it changed into something dark and dangerous. In fact, it took just 5 seconds for the story of Mean Girls to become a sordid tale of murder. For that, Ashley Banfield.
A perfect storm, that's how many described it. Two teenage girls fall hard for the same guy. Love, jealousy, and anger would create a volatile mix that would make them seemingly lose their minds. And on an April night, they would meet for just 5 seconds. 5 seconds that would alter the course of their lives forever. Just a few miles from these white sand beaches and clear Gulf waters, Sarah Ludermann grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Pinellas Park, Florida. Her family licensed these pictures to ABC News. She was a late bloomer when it came to boys, until when, at age 18, she walked into this restaurant and met Josh Camacho.
We would go to Chick-fil-A all the time. He poked his head out of the back because he was working in the back, and he just kind of winked at her, and she wanted to know him.
One wink.
One wink. That was it.
When Josh came into the picture, she was very excited, always giddy around him, always smiling.
All of a sudden, the naive and bookish straight-A student had a new fascination, a boy who paid attention and called her pretty.
Most people have their first love when they're younger. You know, Sarah was 18. She loved him, really, really loved him.
So later on, police arrived and began questioning Wade and the witnesses. She began to cry when they told her that Ludermann had died. Moments later, Wade was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. She was booked into Pinellas County Jail and on a $500,000 bond. She stayed there throughout the conclusion of the trial. So prosecutors brought up the history between the two in order to show that Wade intended to kill her rival over Gamacho. The defense argued of the self-defense under the Florida Stand Your Ground law. The jury heard the voicemail which Ludermann saved 8 months prior. In the voicemail, you can hear Wade stated that she was gonna kill her.
If Madam Clerk would please publish our verdict.
Yes, Your Honor. Case number CRC 090762 CFANO, State of Florida versus Rachel Wade, murder in the second degree. We, the jury, find as follows: ask that the defendant in this case. The defendant is guilty of murder in the second degree as charged. So say we all. Michael Schwartz, foreperson of jury, July 23, 2010.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please poll our jury?
Yes, Your Honor. Michael Paris, was this your verdict? Mr. Schwartz, was this your verdict? Ms. Knoll, was this your verdict? Yes. Mr. Hinkle, was this your verdict? Yes. William Tribby, was this your verdict? Yes. Robert Sanchez, was this your verdict? Yes. Thank you.
At the bottom of the guidelines, 246 months, which turns out to be 20 and a half years to life.
So fortunately, the voicemail that Sarah carried for 8 months was found, and ultimately that sealed Wade's fate. So as the jury of 5 men and 1 woman took just 2.5 hours to find her guilty of second-degree murder. So on September 2010, Rachel Wade was sentenced to 27 years in prison. The judge stated that he believed Wade intended to kill Ludermann. But Wade still said that it was an act of self-defense in a 2011 interview with ABC News. She also stated that social media played a major role for the rivalry and the murder of Sarah Luderman. So in April 2011, Charlie Luderman, Sarah's father, filed a civil lawsuit against Wade. In February 2012, Wade lost her appeal. Wade remains at the Lowell Correctional Institution in Florida. She is scheduled to release in March 21st, 2032. And as for Joshua Camacho, he was sent to New York by his parents to live with a relative following the heavy media frenzy that broke out. He now lives a low profile and avoids reporters and only spoke once during the trial. But in conclusion, rest in peace to Sarah Luderman, and my deepest condolences to Sarah's family and friends. Thank you guys so much for watching.